How's it going, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for the Aliens, the original Years Omnibus Volume 3 from Marvel Comics. So, let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. So before getting started, I want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on November 22nd. And speaking of book market and direct market, what we're looking at here is the direct market cover. This one is supplied by Bernie Wrightson. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover. That one is supplied by the late and legendary Carlos Pacheco. Now, everything else underneath the dust jacket is exactly the same. But let's put the focus back on this book right here. So yes, there's a cover here by Bernie Wrightson. This is from a Dark Horse Comics Presents. As a matter of fact, everything in here is during the Dark Horse years of Aliens. Here's the spine, Aliens, the original years, Volume 3, and then the picture down there. All the eggs, Marvel Omnibus up at the top. Here are some of the covers, not all the covers, to the series that are collected in here. The book retails for $125. It does have the mature content because that's language and violence and what you expect out of an Aliens movie. That's the kind of stuff you'll find here. I love this cover. That, by the way, no spoilers, but that may not happen in the book with a xenomorph in a tuxedo. Now, underneath the dust jacket is the connecting covers to the miniseries Alien Survival. So that's what's underneath the dust jacket. We're going to open this book up and talk about some of the stories in here, show off the artwork, then we're going to talk about the build of the book. So, in case you haven't seen the Aliens movies, or Alien, I am going to be talking about some of the characters that have appeared in here because the Alien Resurrection comic adaptation is here from the movie, so I do have to talk about some of those characters that show up. So in case you haven't seen Alien Resurrection, maybe you stopped at Aliens or Alien 3, I am going to be talking about Alien Resurrection. So just in case, maybe minor spoilers for a movie that came out. Can't believe I'm going to say this almost 30 years ago. That's kind of crazy. Alright, now let's open this up. Cracking this book open, we have some black end paper. Aliens, the original years, right there. And all of the credits. So Dark Horse Comics. There's a lot of Dark Horse Comics Presents in here. And here are the creators behind each of these books. You have Mike W. Barr with the legendary Gene Colan. Bernie Wrightson right there with Ron Mars. And I need to talk about that story. John Wagner and Nancy Collins. Chuck Dixon. Ian Edgington. John Arcudi, just to name a few of the creators. And there's so much talent when it comes to the art. There's some early artwork in here by Eduardo Rizzo. And actually, he's the one that does the adaptation of Alien Resurrection, which we'll be looking at. Now, we can't look at every miniseries, even though I want to, because this book, I think, is ups and downs. Now we're getting to the era of Alien comics, where, you know, you want to see something different outside of the, okay, these 4 badass Marines are going to go and kick the crap out of some xenomorphs. Even though I do like my dude here, Herc Mondo. Alright, so this collects the Aliens Mondo Heat one-shot, Aliens Berserker, Aliens Lovesick, Pig one-shot, that's the one that was written by Chuck Dixon, the Alien Special #1, Aliens Havoc 1 and 2, that one is really cool. See, it's hard not to talk about each one of these. Purge, Alchemy, miniseries, Alien Resurrection, that's the comic book adaptation of the movie, Aliens Kidnap 1 through 3, Survival 1 through 3, Glass Corridor, which is excellent, Stalker, and that one there is a one-shot. Aliens Wraith and Apocalypse, the Destroying Angels, that one's also excellent. Xenogenesis, the Aliens series, it was a 4-issue miniseries, I think. I don't know if it went ongoing or not, because that's the first time I read it, and it's quite excellent. And then material from Dark Horse Presents, 22 through 24, and 101 to 102, 117, 121, 140, Dark Horse Presents Annual 97, and A Decade of Dark Horse #3, and the free comic book day from 2009. So it does kick off with this Dark Horse Comics 22 through 24, and it is the character back from the Colonial Marines. This is Herc Mondo, who is just a complete badass. So much so that he gets his. I just said that I'm tired of reading about Marines. Or no, you may be bored of reading about Marines, but it's so cool. He gets his hand chopped off and he decides to replace it with a knife to go after the xenomorph that chopped off his hand. And he shows up in a couple of stories here. And I wanted to see more of him because that's the type of character that I like seeing. But mileage may vary. Then we get this right here, which is a very interesting story. This is the Aliens Berserker miniseries, which is about this mech suit. And in order to wear this mech suit, it's a really interesting concept because in order to wear this particular suit, you have to give like your life essence into it. So there is a person inside of this big giant suit. It almost looks like a Warhammer book. But you know what's really interesting about this is that this shows how the aliens pretty much make humans docile to them, because instead of being killed, right, they are taken back so they can become a hive, which will pretty much become human incubators for their face huggers, and that's what the little xenomorphs come out of their chest. So I thought this was cool in a creepy way that it showed how humans become docile to aliens, and it shows the aliens actually carrying the humans with them instead of just killing them off, right? Because I guess in movies and in other miniseries, you don't need to show that. But in a creepy way, it's almost disturbing to see that. But that is a 4-issue miniseries, and you get to find out in the third act exactly why somebody would sacrifice their life essence to be inside of one of these mech suits that you're practically giving your life away for. Now, let's keep going through here. This is the pig story. Actually, before we talk about the pig story, we need to talk about Incubation. So this is the comic that was written by Ron Marsh, drawn by the legendary Bernie Wrightson, and actually Bernie Wrightson supplying a cover here. Now, this has been collected before. This has been collected in the Batman Aliens trade paperback. And apparently, in that introduction, I remember, this was originally published in black and white, but when they put it in that trade paperback, they recolored it, or colored it rather. And it serves, even though it really doesn't, but it serves as a prelude to the Batman Aliens crossover comic, the one shot written by Ron Marsh. Actually, it's the exact same team. But that's always been non-canon, whereas this is canon. This particular story is canon in the Alien universe. So, I don't know. That's just something interesting. Yes, of course, because of licensing, you're not going to have the Batman Alien crossover, sadly. But if you have that, it's a wonderful issue. Like the Batman Predator stuff will not be collected in the Predator Omnibus. But here we have the return of Herc Mondo. This, I believe, is the Lucky story. I wanted to talk about this particular story here, mainly because of the art. This is Aliens Lovesick. And I found this one to be really interesting. It's all about a little boy who's crushing on his bodyguard, who is fine, by the way. But the art style to me just kind of threw me off a little bit because it was very cartoony, very plain. I didn't see how this was going to be anything in the world of Aliens. Not that you have to have a particular art style in the world of Aliens, but when you're drawing xenomorphs and dark corridors, you have a certain type of art that you prefer. And going from, this is also a little bit cartoony, but going from things like this to this, I was like, it's a cute story. However, when the horror elements start, I was like, wow, that's actually pretty damn disturbing. And the way that the xenomorphs are drawn, very detailed. Very, very detailed. Look at that. No, don't look at that. Look at this. Focus, focus. I know, I had to tell myself that several times. But anyway, that is a very detailed xenomorph. That is great. I like that. So I like that it kind of lured me in a false state of security with the art style. This is the classic pig story. I'm sure anybody that has read the comics will talk about this one. It's about a group of idiots that want to get to the loot of this one crash site, but the crash site has a bunch of xenomorphs around, about 100. So they decide to take their food, they were going to use this pig as food, and strap a bunch of bombs on him. And that as soon as he gets close to the xenomorphs, they can just push a button and it will blow the pig and all of the xenomorphs away. Yeah, well, you can probably tell that did not go as planned. It's a good story. I like that. You have some black and white artwork in here. Again, I'm not going to talk about each one of these. This is a very interesting story because it's all quiet. It's silent. This is the Havoc 2-issue miniseries. And I found this to be one of the most interesting ones in here because each page is drawn by a different artist. So I didn't even notice until I got to, I think right here when I was like, huh, that's interesting. That looks a lot different than that. You do have like Nick Bradshaw, and who else was it that I noticed? Travis Charest right away. There's other artists that you'll be able to tell right away who it is. But yes, each page is drawn by somebody different. I thought that was a really unique set here to go on. Of course, his artwork always stands out. But it's a very unique project for an Aliens comic. Now, this is the Phil Hester story, I believe. Yeah, it's definitely Phil Hester. This is the Richard Corbin story. So this one's a weird one because it's about an alien and it's terrorizing a feudal space colony and it's ran by a bunch of these religious fanatics. And of course, the only weapon they have to fight off the xenomorph are these outdated weapons like crossbows and things like that. But I feel like the artwork is just excellent. This is by the late Richard Corbin. And I feel like he understood what made H.R. Geiger's xenomorph so terrifying, and he draws heavily on that. So there's a lot of use of shadows in here and the contrast. I think the artwork really carries this particular story. Here's the Alien Resurrection, again, Eduardo Rizzo. And one thing I'm going to say about this, he also does the other story with the teenagers in this particular omnibus. But in here, I feel like Eduardo Rizzo was still young, and it just didn't translate well from screen to page as far as an adaptation. First of all, you have 2 issues, and then there are a lot of things that are left out. So it feels like there are key frames that are missing from here to understand the story. And I'll use this as an example when the xenomorph is crawling here and he gets shot. Now, I mean, based on this picture, of course, he's getting shot from the neck up and his head's being blown off. But in the movie, it was a really cool scene where the gun goes inside of his mouth and you see the gun coming from the sewage hole and then Ripley stands up. So yeah, remember when I said it's minor spoilers about Resurrection? Yeah, that's why it's called Resurrection. It's the return of Ellen Ripley. And a bunch of characters that may or may not make it out. I have a love-hate relation with that movie. I love the fact that they brought her back because I thought it was dirty what they did with her in Alien 3. And no, I'm not talking about just shaving her head. But I feel like the character was so important to this particular franchise. Why would you want to get rid of her? Then again, it could be just because of contracts. But that's why I have a love for this movie. But I also hate it because it wasn't that well done. It could have been a lot better. And I believe this is the kidnap story that has a pretty interesting twist ending. I love this. This is where the Bernie Wrightson cover comes from. This is from Dark Horse Presents 101 by Bernie Wrightson and Matt Hollingworth. But this is the tourist season. It's about a cowboy and a xenomorph. We talked a little bit about this. This is the survival story. And then we need to talk about Glass Corridor, because I feel like Glass Corridor is an excellent premise to, if there was an Alien TV show or maybe another movie. It's about a hired killer named Frank who's suffering from remorse. And he ends up being trapped inside of this spaceship. And of course, inside of that spaceship is a xenomorph. What I liked about this is that there's some great character development. For such a short story, there's some wonderful character development. And man, it was so good. I really enjoyed that about this particular story. And it's a shame that it was only just, a few pages. But in a few pages, I feel like David Lloyd was able to just bring it. I thought it was a unique story that, yes, it shows, of course, xenomorph, because you have to have a xenomorph in there. But the xenomorph is rarely used. It focuses more on the character development. Then this is Stalker, I believe. This is the story with the Vikings. Pretty much Vikings fighting aliens. And this is David Wenzel on artwork, and my gosh, it's stunning. Rick Leonardi. This is the Eduardo Rizzo story right here. The Wraith. And Wraith is about a bunch of teenagers. I like the concept, honestly. It feels like they wanted to make Alien an urban legend amongst a bunch of teenagers in this outpost colony. Then, of course, there's a quick little twist at the end. Then we get this Rick Leonardi issue from Dark Horse Comics Presents. This is Once in a Lifetime. And I kind of wish that they had put this after the Aliens Apocalypse. Because it feels like it's not really a sequel, but it kind of coincides with that. And this is some beautiful artwork right here. Aliens Apocalypse. This is the story I was talking about. So it's interesting that they put that first, because it feels more like a follow-up. So Aliens Apocalypse, I think, just knocked it out of the park, too. This one's by Mark Schultz, Doug Wheatley supplying the artwork. The artwork is just phenomenal. And I feel like they might have borrowed some of the elements from this, or what was it, the Alien Covenant? But it's all about this character named Electothrop, who's been hired to go after a doctor who was following the Nostromo flight plan. That's pretty much it. And then the story brings in the engineers. I don't know if y'all remember those characters, the big guys. Let me see. Yeah, these big guys right here that they found in the original Alien, and then, of course, in the Covenant movie, and what was it, Prometheus, I think? Yeah. But it's really cool because it's got a leap of faith type of story in here. And we've seen that before, mixing religious aspects with the xenomorphs. And there's talk of angels in here. There's a cute little owl instead of a cat in here that I know it makes no sense, but I dig it. And I really like her character. She reminds me a lot of Ripley, Electothrop. I thought she was an excellent type of character. And the artwork is stunning. Now, Xenogenesis, this is one of those stories, if you want to see 4 badass characters just take down some xenomorphs, that's the one for you. And then we get to the Alien series. Now, this is the Alien series from 2009. So, it's the first 4 issues, and I think it was a miniseries. It feels like a miniseries. But we meet the characters of Andrea and David right there. Now, I really like this. I thought it was really interesting because of the connection between both of these characters. She needs help, and he's trying to find her. And then she's kind of speaking in code. They're like telling him that they are after her. They're trying to kill her. And he doesn't know exactly who it is. And he's on a mission right here. This is David and his crew, David Soretta, to go down and help these people out. Now, this isn't much of a spoiler because this happens at the very beginning of the first issue, the first half of the first issue, but his entire squad is gunned down, including David, by these people that were asking for help. Now, how this ties into the story of Andrea, because if you notice something, David is not wearing an eye patch here, but he is wearing an eye patch at the beginning of the story. How did he survive all the gunshot wounds? Well, there's only one way to find out. But I really enjoyed this story. It really drew me in. I didn't want to put the book down, and I kind of wanted to follow the adventures of David and see where he goes next to go and help out another group of people. Now, let's check out the extras. So the book has 1,008 pages. It retails for $125. There's some behind-the-scenes stuff for the Havoc miniseries, how it all came together. That's the one that has the different artists for each page. The covers to the trade paperbacks. There's the Alien Resurrection. I'm assuming these are pinups. Yeah, by Eduardo Rizzo. Here's the Alien Survival 1 through 3. This is what they use for the board, the art on board. And then the Xenogenesis pinups back here. It's hard to spoil a story in Aliens because it's basically Marines versus aliens. So. And here is the piece by Carlos Pacheco. This is the cover of the Omnibus Volume 3 for the Standard Edition. So in case you didn't get the Standard Edition, you still get that piece of art. Here's that eye. It is sewn binding. Book is printed at the iMac printer. But I had no issues with art coming through from the other side. Now, it does help that most of the art, of course, is dark, right? But there are some light pages in here, too. Where normally on iMac paper, the art bleeds through from the opposite side. And I didn't notice on this particular omnibus. So to me, it's been case by case when I talk about these books, like the thickness of the paper. I think people were used to me saying iMac printer, and I immediately thought, okay, super thin paper, no thank you. But no, this is a lot thicker than what I'm used to from the iMac printer. Definitely feels like the stock that they've used in Conan before, and the stock that they've used in recent Omnis that I've seen printed from there, like the Ultimate Omnibus, which was printed at the iMac printer, the latest printing, and I mentioned that on my overview. And the second printing was the Donnelly printer, and the Donnelly printer that time around had thinner paper. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. That was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this series up in omnibus format, if you're waiting for the Epic collections, if you already have the Dark Horse era in their softcover omnibus editions. If you've never read the stuff, if you're going in completely blind, if you're a fan of the movies, I would love to know all those comments down below. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.